Hello, welcome back, everyone. Welcome back from myself, from the lovely Mandie to Roots and Resilience podcast. Not sure when you guys listen to it, whether you listen to it as we upload or a little bit later. You may be catching up on this several months ahead, but we are mid heat wave. We are hot, we are sweaty, we are stressed, we are downing iced water like you wouldn't believe, but we're here. We're back, Mandie. We're back.
We are back. And can I just say, it is lovely to see you. I missed you
Oh,
so much last week. I did
uh,
get a little bit concerned that you were maybe writing your application form ready to be the next Prime Minister. Um,
I mean, I'm not
you
going to
know,
lie. There was an email,
well, I do hope a strongly worded email, I hope.
as always.
But it's so lovely. I felt very lonely trying to do it on
Oh,
my own. It wasn't the same. But thank you to anyone who did listen to that episode. But we're back. The team are back. Come
we're
on.
back. We're back with a vengeance. And Mandy, you smashed it. You absolutely smashed it. I felt very, very, very guilty leaving you. But my diary was just hectic, and it just wasn't going to work. And we had to get the pod out there. So I'm glad that you pulled it off on your own. And smashed it as well. Before we start this week's episode, which is the R&R Exchange, got some fabulous questions that have come in. We just wanted to say a massive thank you to everybody who has listened, liked, subscribed, followed, clickety-clicked, whatever you needed to clickety-click, and particularly those who have shared because, drumroll please, we are at over 500 downloads, and Mandy and I are just, we're a bit overwhelmed with it, really, aren't we, to hit that kind of number already?
It's a bit surreal considering that 6 months ago, we had our very first conversation about, I've got this
Mhm.
idea. Um,
Mhm.
and how would you feel about joining me on this little journey that I wanted to go on? I was thinking 6 people might listen. That'll be good. That's my aim. But yeah, a huge thank you to everyone who's taken part in our little chats that we have. I really appreciate each and every one of you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the motivation that has for us to keep going, coming up with new things to talk about, giving you guys what you need is stronger than ever, despite the heat wave. So yeah, I think that really made our week at the end of last week. So yeah, massive thank you from us. Um, let's lean into our questions then, Mandy. You have got the list this week,
I
and
do.
we are going to battle through some juicy big whoppers this time, actually. So where are we starting today?
Well, I was wondering if we could start with the lovely Anita. Anita's emailed in and she said that she's new to therapeutic parenting. So welcome to the
Oh,
team, first and foremost.
yeah.
Um, but she's saying that she's hearing something called PACE and
Hmm.
she doesn't know what that is. So could we help explain that to her?
Definitely. Yeah. Pace. For me, Mandy, pace and therapeutic parenting are like a match made in heaven. They are the Taylor and the Travis of the therapeutic parenting world, aren't they? Hand in hand, they are the I was going to say Bonnie and Clyde. I don't know if that's a bit extreme. They are the Homer and Marge Simpson. They are the Scooby to the Shaggy. They are just besties and work incredibly well and very much feed into each other. As per the training and the coaching that you and I offer, we absolutely blend those bits. So PACE is an acronym. Have I got that right? Have I
It
got that
is.
part of my
Yep.
English right? Good, good. Didn't want to call it an onomatopoeia because I know it's not that one. Any English teachers out there, feel free to switch off now because I'm probably driving you mad. But do share before you do that. Um, but PACE itself is an acronym, and it was now, I'm going to describe this a little bit woo woo, but stay with me here. I like to think of PACE as an attitude rather than a model or a method or an approach or some almost like a recipe that you need to follow. And one of the things I talk about in how to consider the concept of PACE in my own training is to liken it to a recipe. We love a good analogy over here at Roots and Resilience. We're not going to lose that today. But if you think about a recipe, you grab your recipe book or you go onto your phone and you find something new juicy and tasty for this evening's dinner, but you've never made this before. A bit like Anita being new to therapeutic parenting. Um, but the first time that we start a recipe, we have to keep checking, how many onions do I need? Am I finely slicing or am I dicing? What am I doing with my stock? How many veggies do I need? What's going on with this chicken breast? What on earth are we doing with this? We have to follow very closely and carefully. And it's almost like an out of body experience just to get dinner on the table for the family. But the more that you do that recipe, the more it just becomes ingrained in your brain, wired in, I guess, through those repeat experiences of cooking it. And it just becomes a second nature. And in 6 months' time, you can't even remember reading that recipe book. You just know how to make that lovely family dinner. Are you with me so far, Mandy? Is
I'm
this
with you.
making sense?
I think it
Perfect.
really helps actually,
Mm,
because some people think, um, some parents that I've supported, I've had comments of, "It says playfulness," because the P in pace we know is for
sure.
playfulness. So I got a board game out and it didn't work.
Yeah.
But that playfulness is different to the playfulness that we're
It's
trying to
to
explore.
playing, from
Yeah.
playing. Yeah,
And I think
definitely.
actually using the recipe analogy
Mm,
helps to illustrate that it's not an actual physical thing that you do. It's a
absolutely.
way that you are. It's an
It's part of
attitude.
you. It's an attitude, it's innate, it's organic, and I can now cook said mentioned recipe without thinking about it. I can add those ingredients to my weekly shop. I know what I need to measure. I know when I add this. I know what time the oven needs to be preheated, yada, yada, yada. It's a part of me, that recipe, which is brilliant. And this is why I like to think of pace as an attitude. If you have a paceful attitude to your parenting, to your therapeutic parenting, you are naturally kind of living and breathing it rather than having to think almost outside of your head and come back to that recipe of, have I been playful? Have I been accepting? Have I been curious? And have I been empathic? Because those are the four bits: your playfulness, your acceptance, your curiosity, and your empathy. And I think if you consider yourself as being a playful, um, parent, as an accepting parent, as a curious parent, and an empathic parent, you're just naturally following through with those rather than having to actively take steps to do it. And that's what I love about pace is considering it as you have a paceful attitude towards something difficult that's happening.
Mm.
And Mandy, the bit you said about playful being, that versus playing is so important because I've had this conversation, I don't know, I can't count, let's say 11 billion times already, as I know you have, as have our colleagues in other spaces where we go, it's great. We're not saying don't play Monopoly, don't play Snap, don't kick a ball in the garden. Absolutely do those things if that's what your children love doing. But when they are in a crisis, when they have perceived some danger or some fear or some threat, and their amygdala is going, oh my goodness, how am I going to keep safe? And that fight, flight, or freeze, or whatever other response it is, might kick in. When that brain is flooded with fear, what we're seeking to do is replace the fear with joy. And this is where playful comes in, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it can be the smallest little thing. It can be doing a silly walk or a silly dance or singing
Hmm.
singing a song and changing the lyrics. I do that quite a lot.
Look
It's
at
a
that.
it's about creating those emotional connections with your
Hmm.
children, because that's how we can co-regulate. And I know you and I have spoken about that before, but yeah,
Hmm.
it's a mindset. It's not a thing that you have to do. You shouldn't think,
Definitely.
I can see my child struggling, so now I'm going to put my empathy hat on and I'm going to
Sure.
show some. It should naturally come,
Yeah.
but by using the pace as a framework, it can
Yeah.
just steer you in the right direction and give you some really good
Hmm.
guidance. What
Hmm.
I'm going to do to try and help Anita as well, because I know that we've given quite a lot of information in that answer to her.
Mm.
I'm going to put a little something together, and I'm going to pop it on our Facebook page.
Perfect.
And if anybody else who's listening is like, what are they talking about? Send us an email, rootsresilience@outlook.com, or send us a message through Facebook, and I will put something together, or Laura will, and we will send that
Mhm.
over to you to try and help you if that is something that you're struggling with right now.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. I think that would be really helpful because Anita has asked about what on earth pace is, and I'm talking about a chicken dinner. So I think a visual might be really helpful at this point. Yeah. But yeah, the playful bit, like, so we're not saying don't play games with your children, don't have a playful, fun, light-hearted approach, but we're talking about in the moment when your child is struggling the most, when they are flooded with fear, what can we do to reduce that, to bring in elements of joy, to open up the higher thinking brain so they're not functioning from the survival brain. What is it that we can do? Yeah, singing, dancing, being a bit of a lunatic is always a good one. Mandie, I know that that's a bit of a speciality of yours.
I have skills. What can I say?
You do. Skills that pay the bills. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, but anything, and I think that the important bit that we remember here is that the human brain cannot feel fear and joy at the same time. And so if we look to replace one with the other, we're instantly, and I do mean instantly, bringing down cortisol levels, really reducing that stress hormone. Now, we're not going to say they're going to go from 60 to 0 immediately because you cracked a funny joke, but you are going to see an instant shift. And then that's the bit where you can really work through the rest of the approach, through the rest of
Yeah.
your paceful attitude.
Yeah. Love that.
Um,
Really, really clearly put, Laura. Thank you so much.
Acceptance, Mandy. Now, I probably have a slightly different view on acceptance than you do. So let's maybe think about it from both angles, because one of the benefits we have
Mm-hmm.
here, of course, is you being a foster parent and me being a social worker. So let's look at it from both sides of that coin. For me, acceptance is 50% internal for the adult in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
Internally, accepting a few things really, accepting this is not personal, accepting this is not my fault,
Mm-hmm.
accepting that my child is perceiving something fearful, even if I can't see it. Because it's not about what I can see, it's about what they can see. And accepting that the next few minutes, maybe even the next few hours in extremes, are going to be difficult.
Mm.
And accepting that there is something here that I need to unpick and really work through. And I guess also accepting that this is not a one hit pony. This is something, one trick pony, you
One
know
trick
what, guys,
pony.
what know what I mean. This is not a one-off occurrence. This is something that I will probably have to work through several times before I start to see a shift. So there's a big internal part of the acceptance for me.
Mm.
Does that reflect for you, Mandy? And what's the other 50% look like? Or have I got my percentages all wrong?
I think I think it's a really nice way of looking at it, but I think it's also
Mm,
really, really challenging when you're in the heat of the moment, when you've got a
mm,
child who's dysregulated, who may be being aggressive, be verbally rude to you, or they might be a thrower, they might be picking up things and getting ready to
mm,
throw them at you, or they
mm.
might be actually squaring up to you and you might be going, oh my God, I'm going to get punched in a minute.
Yeah.
It's really hard to hold on to that acceptance of
Mm,
it's not personal and it's nothing that I've done. For me, I think the focus from my point of view on acceptance is just accepting that this is the child as they feel right now.
yeah.
There's nothing I can do to magically change that. I wish
Mhm,
I had a magic
mhm,
wand
mhm.
and I could wave it and everything would be okay. And my
Yeah.
child would feel much, much better. And we wouldn't have to go through these big dips in how he's feeling or how she's feeling and how they see themselves. But actually, just to accept that this is how things are. And with that acceptance, also bearing in mind it's not personal and it's not a reflection on me or my ability to parent or my connection with them. It's just about how they're feeling at this point in time.
Mhm.
What's really good about acceptance is it can be really closely linked with empathy.
Yeah.
If you can keep acceptance of it, just accepting the child for who they are and how they
Mhm.
feel right now, however much it might be really painful for you to see them so dysregulated, there will be a natural empathy that gets connected to that.
Definitely. Definitely. And I think it's important that we are clear that we're not necessarily accepting the behavior,
Mm,
because if you like you were saying, if they're throwers, if they're screaming, if they're shouting, if they're swearing, if they're damaging things, we can't accept that and be permissive around that, but we can accept that there is a place that it's coming from.
yeah,
Definitely.
yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. And Mandy, have you ever Have you ever been in a situation where you verbalized that acceptance? What kind of key lines do you use in that situation?
Um, Bearing in mind that when they are that dysregulated, that rational, logical thinking brain we
Mhm.
know is completely
Yep.
disengaged.
Yep.
So we need to keep words limited because they're not going to be able to process them. So I've got a couple of scripts that when I've got a dysregulated child, I will repeat to let them know that I have accepted them.
Mhm.
One of them being, um, I can see this is really hard for you,
Mhm.
but we're here together.
Yep.
Or just saying something like, you're safe, you're okay, and I'm right here. Something really simple that I can
Yep.
repeat over
Sure.
the time that they're dysregulated so that they know that I haven't rejected them, left them. When they walk out of their bedroom after they've been shouting through the door at me for 2 hours,
Mhm.
I'm not going to tell them off or, pick at that scab, as I like to say, to
Mhm.
refuel them. Um,
Mhm.
it's literally about keeping that connection wherever we possibly can.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is that whole relationship thing, isn't it? We talk about this every time. It comes back to that relationship about how am I supporting the relationship, even though this feels horrible and really challenging? How am I keeping that relationship rather than damaging it at a time where my child is clearly in crisis over something?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Mandie, curiosity then, the C in pace. For me, when I have trained, and I appreciate a lot of my training, particularly in the last couple of years, has been more with children's homes rather than foster families. Um, and this is obviously again one of the differences between how you and I might look at this. Um, I still believe that there is a lot of misconception and an element of myth over what curiosity looks like. And one of the things that I will always talk about is this is not asking questions. We're not asking why did you do this? What's going on for you? How do you think how do you think this is going to play out? How are you really feeling in that? Because even how are you feeling is not curiosity from my point of view. The who, what, when, where, why, how for me, and again, particularly when a child, as you said, is not logically thinking, there's no rationale, this is survival. Asking them a whole bunch of questions is going to feed into blame and shame, and actually probably feels more like an interrogation rather than a supportive relationship. And I have to remind people quite often that this is not MI5, we are parenting.
Mm.
We are parenting. We're not here to interrogate. We're not waterboarding children. Like, what on earth is going on when we're asking all these questions? So, the key line, Mandy, you know, I already know the answer to this, but to be really clear about the curiosity and pace, how are we starting those questions? Or how are we starting those statements? Sorry, because we're not questions. They're not questions.
Um, you can you can start it by saying, and it depends on whether you've left enough time for that dysregulation to come
Sure,
down, and then
sure.
we're back in that window of tolerance. That's
Yes.
where we're aiming for. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, if they're back in that window of tolerance, you can do things like, I saw when you came in from school, you'd had a really
Hmm.
hard day. And I know that you know that school would have phoned me. So I was just wondering whether
Mm,
you thought you were going to be in trouble again because I know
yeah.
what's happened at school. And I
Yeah.
just want to say to you,
Love that.
everything's okay, but I'm here when you're ready to talk. Because you can
Amazing.
say those longer statements when they're in that window of tolerance. They've
Yeah.
got their rational thinking brain back in gear.
Yeah.
It's working again. So you can extend it, but try to avoid, like you said, the why questions. Why did you do
Mm,
that at school? Why do you think schools
mm,
phoned me? Why did you say that to me? What did you think was going to happen when you said that
yeah.
to me?
Yeah.
Even if your tone is quite neutral, the
Mm,
perceived tone by the
mhm.
child is, well, here we go. And you're a bad person. They're kicking right off with
Absolutely.
me. Did you hear? Did you hear what she said to me? And they're going to
Mhm.
fire right back up again.
Yeah.
So being curious is a little bit like your 50% of the acceptance. I think
Mhm.
being curious is actually confirming to the child that you know what's kind of happened. they definitely know what's happened,
Mhm.
but you're still here and you're ready when they
Yeah,
are, and for
yeah,
them to then breach that
yeah,
topic with you.
yeah. Yeah, and the wonder is so important, isn't it? Because we're not making assumptions. We're not telling them how they think or feel. We're wondering if this is what's going on. It's a bit like planting a seed, isn't it? I'm wondering if this is how you're feeling and giving them a narrative to their feelings.
Mhm.
And when you know your child as well as you do, Mandy, as well as most of our listeners do, um, they're pretty accurate.
Yeah,
There's not much chance of the being way off kilter and having no idea what this situation might be. But I wonder if you're feeling this way. I wonder if you were worried about this. I wonder if this was panicking you. I wonder if you were just wobbly and didn't even have a feeling that you could find in that moment.
yeah,
And giving them a reason to, I guess, acknowledge and accept themselves. I guess it feeds back into the acceptance again, doesn't it? It's all very intricate, isn't it? The
mm,
way pace works, really. Yeah, yeah. And it's really interesting because I really liked how you said that the acceptance leads really nicely into empathy. I always feel that the curiosity leads really nicely into empathy as well. So again, it's amazing how our different perspectives do that. But for me, I think if you're curious, I wonder if you were grumpy and snappy this evening because you worried about, family time with parents this weekend or something like that. You're worried about, are they even going to turn up? And for me, once you've wondered about the feeling, I can empathize probably more if I've really spent time thinking about what that feeling is,
mm,
because it must be horrible to feel wobbly about seeing your own parents. It must feel awful to wonder if they're even going to come, it must, what an awful feeling that must be for you to hold on to. I'm really sorry that it feels like that for you. But empathy for that horrible, wobbly, you know, anxious uncertainty, I
yeah,
think, is the bit. Is just the way that that leads in for me. And I think one of my key points that I always talk about with empathy is that 9 times out of 10, it doesn't problem solve. It just sits in that moment. It just sits and holds and it's vocalized and it's open and it's out there. And even if it's a wobbly, it's okay.
yeah,
Because actually, if a child, in the example that I used, if they are wobbly, if they are anxious, if they are wondering what on earth is going on, the likelihood of, about a family time, the likelihood of us being able to fix that feeling is quite slim. We can nurture, we can support, we can talk, but we're probably not really going to fix it until it's over.
mm. So true. And there's a really good clip from
Mm.
Inside Out,
Yeah.
and it's when sadness is sat with the elephant,
Yes.
and he's saying about all these things that he's lost, and she just sat there and she just goes, "Oh, I bet that made you feel really rubbish."
Mm,
And she just sat with him for a minute. She didn't try and
yeah.
fix it. She didn't try to tell him that he shouldn't feel that way or it was silly to feel
Hmm.
that way or he should just get over it. She
Mm,
just sat with him. It
yeah.
just sums up empathy
Yeah.
really, really nicely.
Yeah.
Or you
Yeah.
might have older children and, Inside Out is not your bag, but it's still a really, really good film to watch.
It really is. It really is. Yeah, I love that clip. And the other one that I use when I talk about empathy is the Brené Brown cartoon short that really dissects the difference between sympathy and empathy.
Yeah,
And how she talks about sympathy drives disconnection and empathy fuels connection. And it's so short and so simple and yet so powerful. So
yeah.
maybe that might be even more beneficial for older children, but definitely for adults to watch on a regular basis to really get that empathy bit. Yeah.
I'm gonna
Mandy,
see what I can find and I'll
go
put
on.
some bits
Yeah,
on
we
our
can put some
Facebook
bits
page.
on.
Come and check it out.
Yeah. The only other bit I was just thinking about with empathy as well, I appreciate we spent a long time talking about Anita's question, but I'm really glad that we have. With empathy, is I've had so many people say to me, and I know you have as well, how can I empathize with a child when I've not been through what they've been through? Because the majority of us haven't. We
Mm,
haven't had parents who have done this or not done that, and relatives who have done this or not done that, or whatever the situation might be, whatever those ACEs might be drilled down to. And I think it's a really good point. But I do think we can mitigate that with you may not have experienced the experience, but you have experienced challenging feelings. And the whole thing with empathy, isn't it? Of course, is to sit with the feeling, like you were saying, with sadness and the elephant on Inside Out. Sadness hadn't necessarily experienced what the elephant had, but she had felt sad. So she
Mm.
got feeling sad. And this is the exact point that I make is you may not have had those same ACEs, but you can absolutely, as a grown adult, empathize with a time when you have felt incredibly sad, overwhelmingly sad and upset, with times when you have felt really scared and petrified, even if it wasn't about a thing, but maybe a thing that may or may not happen,
Mm.
that real weird limbo phase that we can be in, empathize with feeling completely overwhelmed and just not knowing which way to turn, and any other sort of negative feeling that just gives that kind of flatness and level of anxiety to people. And I think if you can tap into some of those, and recognize that in your children, then you'll sail away with empathy, and that's the bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope that's helped Anita anyway.
I really do. Yeah,
And it's a
yeah.
really good reminder actually, because I think when you're in it on a day-to-day basis, you can forget the key
Mhm.
approaches, ways of life, mindsets of really helping to connect with the children. So hopefully it's helped everybody a little bit.
I hope so. I wonder if this is something we can come back to maybe later on in the year, Mandy, as a longer episode, and we talk about pace and relationships and those dynamics. The only reason I'm saying this is I'm gonna totally blow my own little trumpet here, toodle toodle too. I'm doing my DDP level 2 later on in the year, and I'm actually being trained by Dr. Dan Hughes himself. I'm
I'm only a
slightly
little bit jealous.
fangirling. Yeah, I know you are. I know you are. But I'm slightly fangirling, and my inner geek will be on full display that week, just having a lovely time online with Dan while he's in America and I'm in Berkshire. And yeah, we'll have this lovely connection. So I know you've done DDP too, Mandy, but maybe we can get our heads together and pull something together that might be a little bit more in depth for another
Yeah.
session.
Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully that's be what
Awesome.
will help people as well.
Definitely, definitely. Have we got a question number 2 for today?
We do. We've had a question in from the lovely Stephen. He's in
Mm,
Nottingham, and he
lovely.
said he he's parenting siblings. I feel your pain, Stephen. I have done the same. Um, but his main point is, how do I manage siblings when one child's need dominates the whole house?
Wow. $1 million
It's
question, isn't it? That's
wow.
tough.
It is
That is
tough.
really tough.
It's really tough,
Really
and I
tough.
think it's harder on you, Stephen, because you're seeing the dynamics from that adult
Mm,
point of view, and you're trying your
mm,
best to be the best version of the parent that you want to be,
yeah.
and yet the children are on slightly different wavelengths at the moment.
Mm,
So,
mm.
Laura, could we start? How would you advise a foster carer that you had been supervising? What advice would you give them in that situation?
I think firstly, I would be going back with my own social worker and with the child social worker to, or yeah, or as the, sorry, if I was a foster parent, if I would be seeking out, both social workers, the fostering and the child social worker, to go back through the chronology. That would be my first point of call, to really look at what do we know about these children? What do we know about their experiences? Because just because they grew up in the same household doesn't mean they've experienced things in quite the same way. I think that it's really easy to think, oh well, they're a year apart or 2 years apart or 3 years apart or whatever, and there was always drugs involved, there was always mental health involved, there was always police involved. That doesn't mean that both children have experienced the same thing. But having a look back, really reflecting on their ACEs, what do we know was working? What do we know was not working? To really pinpoint why one child will have a completely different set of needs to the other. And of course, acknowledge their shared needs, because their basic shared needs will be very, very similar. So I think, firstly, having that real clear understanding about what do we know, whilst also adding another caveat to this, recognizing we don't know what we don't know. We only know what's recorded in that chronology. We only know what people have observed and what people have reported. So being quite reflective on what do we know, and what are we still trying to figure out, I think is really important. I think another thing that I would be looking at is the this is the word I can never quite get, the chronological age of the children compared to maybe their developmental age. Because just because you might be parenting siblings who are maybe, let's say, 10 and 8, you're probably realistically parenting children who are, I don't know, 7 and 5. So immediately adjusting as the foster parent expectations around, okay, they're 10 on paper, but developmentally and emotionally they're 7. So what am I doing to parent a 7 and a 5-year-old and not an 8 and 10-year-old? And maybe shifting some of those things. And that might look like meal times, bedtime and wind down time, relaxation time, the type of activities that they might be doing. So really adjusting expectations around that. I think another point that I would be doing is really thinking about where can I manage, and this isn't always easy, but some one-to-one time for the children. So I'm not talking about every day, or every week, one day a week, we go off and do something big and fancy and expensive with one child and leave the other with someone else. I'm talking about little pockets of time.
Mm.
Little pockets of time, and hopefully Stephen has another adult in the household, or at least someone he can call on his support network regularly. The odd 10 minutes here and there, is it, if you've got an older child who goes to bed slightly later, you've got this beautiful golden time, haven't you, while the little one is in bed, and they get a little bit longer. Equally, you might then be able to ask that older child to have a little bit of time watching some TV, or reading a book, or doing, some colouring or something, while you have that time with the other one. But I would be making sure that that is really clear on my visual timetable, putting some stars around it, getting the kids to decorate that, stickers, drawings, cutting out other pictures, whatever that might look like. So everybody is clear that the time is equal, even if it doesn't feel like it. And then I think if we go back to point number one, using your pace, being playful about, crikey, is my 10 minutes with you up already? Oh, I'm going to need a cup of tea before my next 10 minutes, whatever that might be. I need some energy. We've been so busy, but and accepting that this is going to be, probably complicated for a while.
Mm.
Curious about, I wonder if you thought I'd forgotten about you because I was busy with your brother, or I wonder if you felt really lonely and that reminded you of when you were little. But, I want to let you know I'm still here and I'm just in the next bedroom. And then lots of empathy about how that might be feeling for them. Because we've all probably experienced time when we felt a bit sad and a bit lonely, a bit left out, maybe not to the degree of the children, but we can tap into that a little bit. So they would
Yeah.
kind of be the basics that I would be thinking about to start with, yeah. What about you, Mandy? Because you've actually been there, done that, got a beautiful sibling T-shirt.
I did have a beautiful sibling T-shirt. Bless them. So I had 3 children in the house. 2 of them were birth siblings, and the youngest one wasn't. But the dynamics between the 2 birth siblings, the way they would interact with each other,
Mhm,
um, it was normal sibling relationship. There was that bickering. There was that one being more dominant over the other one, which I think naturally
mhm,
happens with
mhm,
siblings.
mhm.
But as with everything, when you're dealing with traumatized children in particular and neurodiverse children, it's another layer on top. So
Yeah.
there was that sibling rivalry, but it
Mhm.
could go to the extreme of one physically attacking the other one.
Mm,
There was that need to look out for one another, but it could go to that extra level of where, as you and I would say, that like, this is a word I really struggle with, parentification,
Rentification.
where one of the children has to be that parental model for the other child because
Mm,
that's the role they took in the birth home.
sure. It's their identity, isn't it? To be
It
the adult and the
is.
protector,
It
and letting
is.
go of that's really hard. Yeah.
If they've come from a household that has come from a neglectful circumstances, or possibly poverty, the children may have been treated exactly the same. My siblings was one boy, one girl, yet they had identical Christmas presents from birth family.
Wow. Okay.
So they were a year apart, but they didn't have their own identity yet. They were
Mm,
they were
mm,
together as a team, a little bit like twins. It was quite strange
mm,
and bizarre.
mm,
So there's lots of different aspects, and I think it's right about making sure you've got that time. It was part of our routine. I did reading time with each of them individually for 15 minutes every single night so that they
Mhm.
knew they had that one-on-one time with me. And that worked really, really well. We could spend hours talking about siblings and the
Yep.
dynamics and the extra pressures that puts on us as
Yeah.
parents. And in fact, what we're going to be doing is in 2 weeks' time, we're going to have an episode dedicated just to siblings. So, Stephen, please do look out for that and listen in when
Mm.
we've got that one coming up, because it's very, very unlikely you will have two siblings that have exactly the same needs and are quite
Yep.
happy with exactly the same level of your attention. So, I'm speaking for you, Laura. I know you
Mhm.
love it when I do that. We're going to come up with some top tips and some really good knowledge and information to help you build your strategy. Let's get another tool in that toolbox for you, and hopefully that will help Stephen out as well.
Definitely. Definitely. Sounds good. I'm really looking forward to that episode actually, because it's going to be juicy. We
It,
may even end up with a two-parter. You never know.
there is so much to talk about. There really, really is.
Yeah,
But for
definitely.
today, if we could just press the pause button on siblings, I'd really
Mm.
like to move to the next question, if that's okay,
Let's go
Laura.
for it. Let's go for it.
So, where's my next question? Please bear with me. Okay. Right. Lydia from Southampton has an email in. She has listened to our schools episode and really enjoyed it. So thank you for listening in. I
Thank
know
you.
I got on my soapbox a little bit maybe, but thank you for sticking with it, everyone. She's asked, how do I advocate for my child at school without being seen as, and she's put quote marks round, that parent? I probably am
Oh.
that parent, so you might be a better person to give her more stable, honest advice at this point.
Well, that's such an interesting question, isn't it? And I love that she's put quotation marks around that parent. Firstly, Lydia, well done for being that parent, because not everybody is that parent. So I think let's shift the mindset and the narrative about being that parent. It's not a negative. I think, Lydia, if you take anything away from today, being that parent makes you an awesome parent, in my point of view, and I'm sure lots of our other listeners would agree. Um, Yeah, I think let's be positive about that. Advocating for your child when no one else is like for me, you may as well have a cape and a mask because you're a superhero. You know, advocating for a child who may not have a voice or whose voice is lost in the system, who's where people around them are not getting your own approach, Lydia, to being a therapeutic parent and needing therapeutic and empathic input in other places. You are that parent, and I love you for being that parent. You need to be that parent. So get rid of your quote marks and just put glitter all over it, because that's exactly where you should be, first of all. um and I think if we're going to go with the narrative that being that parent is okay, I think there's probably a couple of things that you just need to be persistent and consistent with. The first point is keep sending those emails, keep turning up at the office, keep keep fighting the good fight, for want of a better quote, really. Because if you're not doing it, the likelihood is that no one else will. If you're really struggling with people listening, please do reach out to someone that can support you with advocacy. You're the advocate for the child, but you might need an advocate for yourself, Lydia, and anybody else in a similar situation. So do look for services that can do that. Both Mandie and myself are usually available for that kind of support, as are the Centre of Excellence in Child Trauma. I know that they have some similar services as well. So do look for your own advocacy so that you can keep being your child's advocate. Um, I think just reminding them as well, Mandy, I know you've done this. I know you've stamped your feet and done this a few times. Remind them that yes, they might be the education expert for the school. Of course, we'd be worried if they weren't the education experts, really. But you are your child's expert. They do not know your child anywhere near the same way that you do. And again, this is part of your cape. This is what you can have printed on your cape. I am my child's expert. This is where your glittery stuff comes from. So remind them that you are the expert. Remind them that they are a child with trauma and or a little bit of neurospiciness sprinkled in for good measure, and that you want to work with. You're not there to be a thorn in their side or a pain in their you know what. You are there to work with. And this is why you're being so persistent. I think that was kind of where I would be. And also offer to come in to talk to the school. Do some twilight sessions. Come in on the inset day if you can get childcare. Put a few slides together. Grab some videos from YouTube and go in and teach them what they need to know. Be that superhero parent that you already are being, but maybe just reshape your outlook and your identity on that a little bit.
I love that
Mandy, tell
answer.
me about your cape and your mask. What have you done to wear yours?
I would definitely highlight you are your child's expert. You
Mhm.
you see them in their, natural habitat, as David Attenborough would say. Um, you see the highs, the lows. You see all the emotions. In fact, you're carrying the emotions with them
Mhm.
or for them a lot of the
Mhm.
time. So I'm not saying that you should go up to the school and be confrontational or argumentative with staff members. We're going at this from a professional point of view so that they will engage with you and not dismiss you as being that overly
Mhm.
emotional parent. You can
Mhm.
go, you can clearly put your point across, make it fact based. You are your child's expert. And even if, and I know we spoke about this in the schools episode, if there is some masking going on, if that child is being that Jekyll and Hyde between home and
Mm.
school, accept that, but still make your point of how you see things, because
Yeah.
that it's important. It's what makes the team around the child a team around a child. Otherwise, it's
Yeah.
just individuals seeing different things. And yes, absolutely. We've got, with the Centre of Excellence in Child Trauma, we've got packages put together for advocacy. So
Mhm.
I could attend a meeting virtually, or I could send emails from a trauma informed point of view. And I know, Laura, you've done the same.
Yeah.
We're in this to support you. Don't ever feel that you're on your own. We
Mhm.
want to help. We know how hard it is. Reach out for somebody who can stand up and help voice what you need to put across.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And Lydia, I can't wait to see a picture of you in your cape because you absolutely deserve to be wearing it. Mandy, have we got time for one more question? Can we
I
squeeze
reckon
in one more today?
I reckon we could squeeze in a quick one if you're up
Okay,
for it.
let's go for it.
Okay. This one is from Sharon, and Sharon is in the Wirral.
Lovely.
So, Sharon, it sounds as if things are really, really hard for you right now. She says, "Hi ladies, I'm loving the pod. Really helps me to focus on my parenting. So love that. Thank you." But then she says, "How do I cope with feeling lonely in parenting when no one around me gets it?"
Oh, Sharon, that's a tough one. That is really, really tough. Yeah. Feeling that you are a lone ranger as a therapeutic parent must feel horrendous to to be navigating that every day. That's really hard.
I really want to say from the very, very outset, and I don't mean to talk over you, Laura, Sharon, you are not on your own. And anybody else who is listening who is like, my friends aren't getting this. My family came around at the weekend and they've corrected all of my parenting.
Mm.
I feel really, really rubbish. It's not you. You're showing up every day. You're learning about your children. You're working out through therapeutic parenting what works and what doesn't work. A little bit like we've just said, you are your child's expert,
Mhm.
but you are not in this on your own. There are so many other therapeutic parents out there that are possibly feeling the same way that you do. So what we want to do is try and help build a little community so that you don't feel isolated, so that you don't feel as if you're on your own. And if listening to us to, um, I was going to say pratter on, but that's really negative. I'm not going to say that. Um, use our wise words of wisdom um, on your dog walk or the school run or whatever it is that you're doing. Hopefully that will make you feel a little bit less lonely.
I hope so. I hope so. And Sharon, I think, yeah, I think be your own advocate in this for not feeling so lonely. Find some online support groups. If you do again visit COET, the Centre of Excellence in Child Trauma, there are quite often local listening circles, whether they're virtual or face to face. It might even be worth you putting a shout out on your own social media or for some local spaces. Even if you meet one more person, that you've doubled your numbers, haven't you? It's you and someone else. Again, whether it's virtual or face to face. Hopefully more local for you. But yeah, please do remember you're absolutely not on your own. And again, reach out to us whenever you can.
Absolutely. We are always available through email, Outlook at rootsresilience@outlook.com. Sorry, I even got my email address wrong. And we've got our Facebook page, which you can message us through as well.
Mhm,
So don't ever feel that you're doing this completely on your own. You're definitely not. Laura has a wealth of knowledge from supporting people, and I'm living it every day. So
mhm.
you're definitely not on your own.
Absolutely, absolutely, definitely, definitely. Um, Mandy, is that all our questions today?
That's it for today.
That's it. That's it. What a juicy bunch they were. I really enjoyed that.
It was a bit of a roller coaster ride.
It was. It was. I was clinging on for dear life at one point, but we're back down to ground now. Yeah,
Lots of highs and lows. Um,
definitely.
and that's kind of therapeutic parenting summed up, really, isn't it? It
Mhm.
is a bit of a roller coaster
Yeah,
ride.
yeah.
You've just got to enjoy
Buckle up.
it
Buckle
while you
up.
can. But no one's ever on their own. No one's ever wrong for advocating. That's really what we're saying today.
Mhm.
Um, and that we're here. We're here to help and support wherever we can.
Definitely. With that paceful approach. Absolutely. So
Always.
we're back in a couple of weeks with a brand new episode. And then after that, we will have another R&R exchange. So if anybody does have any questions, anything that's kind of sparked any of your thoughts up from today, or anything that happens in your parenting and family life in the next couple of weeks, please do email us. We are rootsresilience@outlook.com. And we will look forward to answering your questions again very soon.
We will. And also don't forget, in between, we've got our new episodes, our R&R Bite Size, which hopefully you're enjoying, where we share our top 5 tips on different subjects. Um, so yeah, any feedback, if there's a topic that you want us to talk about, if you've got any questions, or if you want to know a top 5 tip for a certain area, then please do drop us a line. We love hearing from you. And hopefully we'll speak to you all soon.
Thanks, everyone. Take care. Bye.